and welcome to Transatlantic Watch Party, a podcast about films in which Dan in Canada and myself, Cara, in the UK, watch a film separately, then get together to discuss it. And this week, we will be discussing the 2017 directorial debut of Aaron Sorkin, who also wrote the screenplay for which he was Oscar nominated, Molly's Game.
This is a true story. I'm Molly Bloom. I decided to take a year off before law school, so I found a job as an office assistant.
My weekly poker game is moved to the Cobra Lounge. You'll help run it. And Molly.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
I was in a room with movie stars, directors, and business titans. They were going all in, all the time.
Thank you, Molly.
This is for you. I'm gonna stop paying you as my assistant.
You're gonna stop paying me because I'm making too much money doing my second job, and if I say no, I'll lose both jobs because it doesn't seem fair?
You don't have bargaining power here.
You are unimportant.
I wasn't gonna wait before I put a plan in place. I'll be hosting a game in this suite every Tuesday night.
Let's play.
Tone it down. The big players don't like fast hands. Sarcastic dealing. Cool.
The true story of Molly Bloom, a beautiful young Olympic-class skier who ran the world's most exclusive high-stakes poker game for a decade before being arrested in the middle of the night by 17 FBI agents wielding automatic weapons. Her players included Hollywood royalty, sports stars, business titans, and finally, unbeknownst to her, the Russian mob. Her only ally was her criminal defense lawyer, Charlie Jaffe, who learned there was much more to Molly than the tabloids led people to believe.
Can I point out, wherever you got that synopsis from, very good. When I typed in Molly's Game to Google, the overview, not the AI overview, because I turn off AI, but the overview said, after a fatal injury puts an end to her career as a skier, and then continues to tell you what happens in the rest of her life. After her, I'm sorry, what, fatal injury?
Oh, it's funny. Fatal to her career as a skier, I guess, is what we're...
Yes. That's not what they said. That's not what they said. They just said it was a fatal injury. So I think somebody doesn't know the meaning of the word fatal.
I chose this movie because I was just jumping off our last film, which was written by Aaron Sorkin. It was his first screenplay. So this was his first directorial effort. So I thought we could, and he's done a few since this, so we can talk about that later. What did you think of the movie overall?
I was not a huge fan. I thought the performances were great. Funnily enough, I thought the script was rather weak. And I was intrigued by the fact that he wasn't Oscar nominated for A Few Good Men, which I think is horrendous. And he was Oscar nominated for this. But what I think might be the reason for that is this is sort of a less Sorkin-esque script. Sorkin-esque script. And I wonder whether they were giving him props for bringing Molly's voice into the film and sort of leaving his voice on the side.
Could be. Yeah. It
would have been Mr. Sorkininess.
It would have been an adapted. A few good men from his own work. This was also adapted from Molly Bloom's book, and a lot of it is in her voice. I also didn't like it. I'll be honest. I wasn't. It's an interesting story about an interesting person who did interesting things, but this is a kind of a boring movie somehow still. I just parts of it to stretch on, and it didn't explain poker well. It should have spent more time explaining the poker stuff that it did. I definitely see better poker movies than this one.
Yeah, but that I didn't care about. I didn't care that she didn't explain poker because the story wasn't about the game of poker. It was about the game of poker, Mm-hmm. What I felt like, and she brings it up herself in the film, the character, Molly herself says it, it just felt like a really gossipy film. Now, I have nothing against gossip, but it just felt like there was no sort of particularly interesting thing to grab onto. It was just salacious gossip.
And I thought that was kind of taken down a level because it was also anonymous, right? These are clearly meant to be real people. But the whole player X thing was kind of a bit much. I thought, I don't know. And it was yeah, I get you want to protect some people's identities here, but this is also supposed to be a true story. I don't know. It was a weird way of presenting it because and I did some research on who the actual celebrities involved were. We can talk about that later as well. Yeah. But it wouldn't have that hurt them that much to be named, to have been named. I think, I don't know. We can.
Well, I mean, because that's kind of the whole point, is that she won't name people, and so I get that. But the thing is, some of the people she did name aren't named then properly in the film, and it just seems a bit weird.
Well, that's true as well. Yes, I agree. All right, let's go through the characters.
It appears to me throughout your career as a game runner, you're extremely diligent about vetting players.
I was.
But you let 4 guys play in the game without knowing they were connected?
Yeah, plus an FBI informant. It's embarrassing.
Jessica Chastain as Molly Bloom. Idris Elba as Charlie Jaffe, her lawyer, ends up being her lawyer, rather.
That is Sir Idris Elba, because he
sorry.
was knighted in the New Year's Honours list, which is very exciting. Also, did he call himself Charlie? I always thought he was Charles. He seemed like a very Charles to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It says Charlie Jaffe here. That's what I read. So
Kevin Costner plays Larry Bloom, who is Molly's father, and a man I do not have enough fuck yous for.
oh, okay. Well, interesting. Digging into that a little bit further. You know, Kevin Costner, I could take him or leave him, but I thought he was actually pretty good in this.
Oh,
For one, this.
he plays it very well.
Yeah.
I hate the guy. And Michael Cera plays Player X, who is apparently based on Tobey Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio. And he is a man who doesn't like poker as much as he likes destroying lives.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a direct quote from Toby. Yeah, that was a weird character, and even weirder based on Tobey Maguire, because we don't know Tobey Maguire like that. I guess it's a strange situation. Jeremy Strong as Dean Keith, and I thought Jeremy Strong was a different actor. I was thinking of somebody completely different. Is there another Strong? Is another person named Strong?
Are you thinking of Mark Strong?
Mark Strong, yes, but he's got a shaved head and he's very intense looking.
He's British.
British, yeah, a British guy, yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm thinking of. Anyway, Jeremy Strong is fine. He's a good actor. He plays a great jerk. He's from that HBO show,
Succession.
Yeah, Succession, where he's like one of the brothers that's trying to succeed. Brian Cox's character.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just your typical. He's the guy who Molly ends up working for, who gets her to start the game, basically. That's how she gets into poker in the first place.
Yeah. And lastly, Chris O'Dowd as Douglas Downey, who is the only Irishman allowed at the Russians' table. And is a man who opens conversations with lines that sound like the title of a detective novel. And I think that's brilliant.
That was pretty good. I gotta say, that's a little Sorkin-y right there. That felt Sorkin. Yeah, and so there were some good lines in this. There were some good scenes, and I just think the whole thing didn't come together as well as maybe he hoped. And it's pretty apparent that it's a first time director with this, I think. Like, it's not. It didn't. Okay. Anyway, we'll get into it.
Okay, so because plot, let's dive into what happens in this film. So we're going to call the opening segment, "What's the worst that could happen?" Clearly, according to the Google overview, a fatal injury. Molly is trying out for the Olympics. It does not go to plan. And 12 years later, she is arrested by the FBI. Those are the things that we see. So we get this fast-paced voiceover, lots of technical info. We get this sort of framing of what did people think the worst things that could happen in sport? My assumption was that the answer would be injury.
Yeah.
But people were coming out with things like losing the World Cup, and one person, as it says in the film, suggested coming fourth in the Olympics, which I can imagine is terrible. If you've worked 4 years and you come fourth, but imagine if you've worked 4 years and you don't get picked. Like, so I was always imagining that the answer was going to be injury, and it wasn't. And we learned that in her younger life, Molly had scoliosis. And so she's got a lot of engineering in her spine. Mm-hmm. So when we see her crash at her trial for the Olympics, and she essentially lands on her neck, and then she comes to a halt, and we never see any more of it. We move immediately to 12 years later, and the FBI call her to say, "We've got agents outside your door, come out." And I was like,
that was very nice of them. That was very nice of them, hey? How considerate. They didn't just bust their door down. Just like, "Hi, come on out, you're under arrest."
Yeah. I wonder if they did that because she's white.
Oh, maybe. Or she was rich too. There's those two things.
Well, she wasn't at that point. They'd taken all her money away.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. They had. I forgot about that. That's this. There's. I found the jumping around confusing. We live in multiple timelines here. Part of it is a flashback. It took me a while to realize that the narration part was her book. Like that. I think that's meant to be. We meet Idris Elba, Sir Idris Elba's character in a little bit. And he is reading her book, so I get. Oh, it's him reading the book to catch up on who she is, and then we're of course also catching up on who she is as the audience. So that was kind of confusing. I was turned off by all the voiceover at first, I gotta say. Not a fan of excessive voiceover, and this was a bit much for me.
Yeah, I did not like the opening with all of the voiceover stuff.
Yeah.
It just felt like too much was coming at me in one go. And things I didn't care about really. And then later on we get another like story voiceover where she's telling us about a person. And I was like, again, why are you talking about this? But it did feed into something. The thing she's talking about at the very beginning doesn't feed in until the very end of the movie. So I think maybe they thought that was clever, but it gave me nothing to grip onto at the beginning.
Yeah. I didn't care about the ski trial or anything, and all this. Like it was, horrible accident for whatever happened there, but it's like. It didn't have the weight I think they were trying to give it as this big, huge event in her life. And then we cut to, and we do cut back to it occasionally throughout the film, like they cut the flashbacks or whatever of her injured.
No, that's only at the very end of the film.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So
Okay.
I had no idea what had happened to her. Because when we cut to like 12 years later, and then we cut to the bit you're going to talk about where she's living in LA, I was like, how long after it is this? Because she talks as though that's going to really injure her.
Yeah.
That fall. And so I was then like a little bit confused for most of the beginning of going, I went, how much after this is this taking place? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so after her Olympic trial blowout, Molly heads to LA and gets a job with Dean. And I thought it was interesting that the plan is initially that she's going to go to law school. That's what she talks about, going to law school. But she doesn't go to law school. She starts crashing on friends' couches and trying to make it on her own. She gets a job working as bottle service girl, where basically she just gets the rich jerks to spend more money. She upsells them on the brand of vodka. And she says, you should get Grey Goose. It's $300 more a bottle. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. This is way beyond my means, by the way. This whole movie is rich people doing rich people stuff, and I'm like, this is just not speaking to me on any level. I do not get that choice.
I mean, the thing is for me as well, I don't even drink. So to me, pretty much all alcohol tastes the same. So the idea of paying $300 more for the same drink.
That's a bit much, right? And then so she gets, but that's not enough. She gets a pretty good amount for 1 day's work a week out of that. I can't remember how much it is, but she needs more. So she gets a second job as a quote personal assistant to Dean Keith, who's just a sleazeball, just this jerk. And I hate the dynamic of this, especially later on when he says that she's not gonna get paid for it or whatever, this personal assistant job. Because the game becomes more important for her, and her role in the game becomes more important. But she has to do all this shitty work where she has to get his coffee. He's a jerk to her. He's like, he calls her up. He's like, coffee now, and he like, or bagels. He asks for bagels, right? That's the whole thing with the bagels. They talk.
Partly points out,
or people bagels, but that's not what he said. So she doesn't like working for this guy. Then we come to the present day. Molly meets with Charles Idris Elba, who agrees to assist her in arraignment or refuses to represent her. She is scrambling because she has been given like a couple days to find a lawyer and then get across the city to face arraignment or something like that, right? That's
yes, because she was in Telluride,
right?
And the trial is happening in New York. They gave her 2 days to get to New York. Bearing in mind she has no money. 2 days to get to New York, find a lawyer for this arraignment. So that they've really stiffed her.
And it's this part of a RICO thing, which is a bunch of criminals. It's like in Batman too. It's like in the Dark Knight when they arrest all those guys with the Joker. Remember that? It's just like that. So they bring all these guys in, and she's a part of this for some reason because her poker game connects some of these criminal guys. Is the problem? The game that ended years ago. This is like 2 years later, after she stopped doing all this poker stuff. A question to you. I wanted to ask you, as a British person, what's Idris doing with his accent in this movie?
He's not saying Stella in an American accent, that's for sure.
But is he trying to do an American accent, a different coming?
He's
Sometimes it just does not sound American at all.
And it's so funny because when I first came across Idris Elba and assumed he was an American actor because of The Wire.
Right.
So,
But that's an accent that he can do very well.
Yeah.
I try to do a different type of American accent. Hell, he's not able to do it as well as he can. Like
maybe they only gave him 2 days and he was in Telluride and he had no money.
Right. It was noticeable. It's like, what's he just doing with his accent here? But I have to say that throughout this movie, I love the scenes with these two in them the best. I think these are the two best actors in this movie. They're both incredible. They're both like and he makes like such a case for like why she should do the things she does. They're just both excellent. And that was my favorite part of the film, is when we cut to these two talking about like what they're going to do next in her current situation. I cared about that way more than I cared about like the past, the poker and all that stuff, because it had all happened already, right?
Yeah. We will get to it later. The hard drive conversation is the best bit of the film. So yeah, the points I had about this segment was first of all, I really enjoyed that Molly had good grammar. She says to Dean, "From where would you like me to get your bagels?" And I was like, yeah. And the other thing is, when we first meet Charles's daughter Stella, she's reading The Crucible, and Molly asks her, "Has that been assigned by school?" And she said, "No, by my dad." So Stella's got the same kind of dad that Molly had.
Yeah.
This segment is bookended with, flashbacks to the relationship with her father, and he is overbearing and he's just impossible. He needs her to be the best at everything. He needs all of his kids to be super smart, super athletic. And yes, he gets it done, but at what cost? And we see Stella reading The Crucible, and Molly asks Charles, "Why did you ask her to read The Crucible?" And he says it's to show her so she can see what happens to a group of bored teenage girls when they gossip. That's what The Crucible's about. That is such a man reading of that play.
Yep.
What a terrible reading of that play. They'll go back to school.
Yeah, I like this. Again, this is why I like Kevin Costner in this, because he really does the controlling asshole well. He does this thing where he interviews his kids every year. He records them.
What do you think about the following concepts? Just gonna run them by you. Marriage.
It is a trap.
Society.
It is a joke.
People.
I think there's good and bad. But I don't trust them. I don't trust people.
I can't imagine having a parent that would do just like, now it's time for your end of the year. It's like you're an employee, right? And you have certain things and that kind of stuff.
It's like a psychological test every birthday. So every birthday you go, "Oh, it's my birthday. Oh God, I have to sit down with Dad and he's going to ask me all these deep and meaningful personal questions."
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you get to because the one we see of her is when she's a teenager, and she's like, "Yeah, I was a brat and I was stubborn and I was petty and I didn't want to answer his stupid questions." And I'm like, "No, of course you didn't. You were sick of him."
Who are the heroes or heroines in your life? Who do you really respect?
I don't have any heroes.
You don't have any heroes.
Molly needs to find fish for player X in order to guarantee the success of the game. Charles changes his mind during the arraignment and agrees to represent her, and Dean accuses Molly of cheating on the game with player X and fires her. The fish are the people that X can beat, are the people who will come in and throw their money at the table and do not care about anything because they want to be at the table. That's what's important to them. And so player X can have his fun, because if these people come and they don't want to be there, or they lose too much money and they leave, the game will die. So they need to keep finding new people for the game. So Molly goes to the girls' the bottle girls in her club and says, if anyone wants to do this, mention my name, I will vet them. And she goes to a local, like, fairly seedy casino. It's just like a room with some tables in it. It's a bit weird because I'm used to like LA and like Las Vegas casinos. And so she just goes to this bog standard room where people are playing and sort of, finds some people there. What we get in this section is that story about Matthew Robinson. And I was meant to look this up before we get on to see if it was true.
Okay.
I'm going to act like it's true. I had no idea. He's the guy who came second to Jesse Owens in the 1936 Olympics. And he broke the world record. But it didn't matter because Jesse Owens was faster than him. So he was a phenomenal sprinter. But nobody knows about him because of Jesse Owens. He was also the brother of Jackie Robinson. So that is such a double whammy. And I was like, why are we getting this story? But she points out that her brother is #1 in the world skier. And her other brother is a genius and super smart and in doing college classes when he's 12, And so she was neither the best skier or the smartest person in her house, even though she was super smart and a great skier. Yeah. And so that was a really interesting, and she gets into this fight with her dad, which includes the line that I really loved. They're arguing about one of her teachers who has been teaching her about Freud. And because her dad's a psychologist and does Freud stuff, I presume, he gets very upset that she says that Freud is a misogynist and an idiot. And he talks about her teacher and he says, Barbara Linwood doesn't like men. And she fires back, she doesn't like dicks, Dad. There's a difference. And it's such a teenager thing to say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, it's so great. The bit where Dean is talking to her about whether she's been cheating, this is when he says to her, I'm going to stop paying you for your job. You're making too much money here. So I'm now not going to pay you. And she's like, I work 24/7 for you. What do you mean? And so she immediately goes behind his back to set up a new game because she knows that she's going to get fired.
Yep.
One of the reasons he says he's going to fire is that he's not going to pay her anymore is business is bad right now. I have 2 suggestions for you then, sir. #1, stop gambling. And #2, that doesn't mean she doesn't get paid. Like, that doesn't mean she does her job for nothing. Are you doing your job for nothing? No.
Well, it's what she says. This job, this whole arranging this game is like an extra part of her job that she gets tips from, and this whole system seems very weird. This is going to lead into my section pretty well because, like, I'm just kind of unclear on how all the financial parts of this work. At one point, we have people showing up with bags full of cash, priceless works of art, and it's like, how does she convert this to like electronic funds? How does she pay out the winners? Like, again, I'm sure she worked it all out herself, but they didn't convey it within the film very clearly.
There is a point where she does say, one of the guys turns up and says, have you got my check? And I was like, oh, is that how they do the winnings? Like,
they do that, yeah, check. She's got spreadsheets. Remember, she teaches Dean about spreadsheets. That was her thing. And you can tell the time of this is coming up. This is around, I'm going to guess, early 2000s, 2003, 2004. That's when the poker fad hit, poker craze. Did you guys have that over there where everyone wanted to play poker all the time?
I have no idea.
It was a big thing over here. Like, I played poker for a while. I was in a game for a while, and it was like just this big, huge, this is what this was. And then all these celebrities got involved in it. There was all kinds of TV shows, sports channels started showing it, much in the same way we see in this film. And this is at this time, and that just at the same time, programs like the internet and of course spreadsheets and that kind of stuff was starting to come out. So she's very, very smart. She knows, like, she can figure everything out. She just kind of gets everything going. She starts her own new game. And she they just spend all this time like making it seem so chic with all the different all the different kinds of booze and cigars, and just like she's got 3 girls coming in who are going to be like I can't remember now what their names are.
No, that's New York. I think you're thinking of New York.
Oh, and she's not okay. The three girls come later. Oh yeah, she
Yeah.
just tells her. Yeah. She's got a bartender at this one, and I can't remember what else, but it's on a smaller scale. You're right, but she still does get all the nice stuff together. She texts everybody and says the game's moved. She got a suite at the Plaza Hotel. The game's moved to the Plaza, so they all show up there, and that's when she tells them that Dean, they're not like this is now her game, and basically that you can still go play with Dean if you want, but this is game's happening Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
Now,
You
right?
can play with Dean in the scuzzy basement of the Cobra Club. Are we meant to not know that that's the Viper Rooms? Like, yeah, and I thought it was. I always thought it was funny that they played in this scuzzy basement, and then she like goes all out, and like gets this nice food and these nice cigars and this nice alcohol. And I'm like, of course they'll stay with you. They're rich people.
And it's pretty clear she can't do it without X at this point because he like there's a moment where everyone's kind of looking around going, that's kind of weird. This seems weird. Then X is like, let's play. And they go, okay, well, he's in. We're all gonna follow. And again, he is the celebrity, again, representing Tobey Maguire, Leo DiCaprio, that everyone is there excited to play with. It doesn't really matter to these rich guys whether or not they win or lose. They're just excited to play poker with celebrities and famous people, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, and I wrote down because he suggests to her that she should up the buy-in.
Yes.
She's like, yeah, but we'll lose people. And he's like, then you find more people. And he's very much people want a seat with him, not even at the table. They want a seat with the people at the table. They don't really care about, and she says something interesting later about one of the guys we meet, Harlan. He's playing poker, they're gambling.
Yeah.
Like, they've just got so much money, it doesn't matter.
But you even see when even at that point where Dean accuses Molly of cheating, goes he's just lost, and you can see that desperation that he has as a gambler, right? You can see all these guys are gamblers, like who can't really help themselves, because they keep coming back to her as we see for more money. X encourages are up the buy-in, and Molly goes fishing again. We meet Donnie, Brad, and Harlan. So we bring in these new characters. Bad Brad. Because he's just bad. He just happened to be there. He's got a hedge fund. Turns out to be pretty shit. Who's Donnie again? I can't remember Donnie.
Donnie is the poker world champion.
Right. Yes, that's right. And then of course Harlan is like the real. He's actually a really good player. And he wins. Like he's there to win. He's there for the same reason X is there, to take out all the other fish, basically.
Yeah.
And he usually plays pretty smart until he comes up against Brad.
Yeah.
So one more thing before you go into your section. This whole part is called "Don't Break the Law Where You're Breaking the Law," and that's because of the conversation she has with a lawyer. And again, I'm getting confused about the jumping around because she has a lawyer at some point when there's this thing with Brad happening, right? This deposition,
and that's the same guy as this.
Yes, that's right. So this guy he's a shady guy. Like he's not also, we suspect he's also the guy that leaked that list of celebrities, I think. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of it. But he says, don't break the law, which means like, sure, you can run this, but no illegal drugs, no prostitutes, no sending out goons to collect the debt. So she doesn't do that stuff. So she has a lot of debt out there. A lot of people owe her money from these games, right? Yeah. And that's just growing as we go on.
And the other very important thing is she cannot take the rake, which I had to look up. She can't take money from the game. She can't take a percentage. So everything she earns is from tips.
Right.
And the selling of maybe the alcohol or cigarettes, the cigars, I'm not sure. But she sets up a business and she hires people and she pays them and she pays her taxes and she's doing everything correctly. And so she goes to see this guy and he goes, don't break the law when you're breaking the law. And she goes, am I breaking the law? And he goes, not really. And she goes, we're able to find out, aren't we? I mean, laws are written down, which I thought was like, yeah, Molly, well done.
Yeah, that's good.
To go back to something that we didn't talk about, when Charles, in the present day, a lawyer in the present day, changes his mind during the arraignment and agrees to represent her, that's a really nice, funny bit where he's got these two massive security guys with her because he's terrified the Russian mob is just going to take her out. So when they sit down in the courtroom, it's big guy Molly, big guy Idris Elba, himself a rather large man. And he keeps going to this guy next to him. He's going, switch with me. And he sits down next to Molly and he goes, I just wanted to check something with you. And then he goes, okay, switch back. And then you see him thinking and he goes, switch with me. It's so stupid, very funny.
Has the defendant seen a copy of the indictment?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you discussed it with your lawyer?
Yes.
Do you waive its public reading?
Yes.
And how do you plead?
Not guilty.
Thank you. You may have a seat.
Your old boss, the one in the book you called Dean Keith, he was terrible to you. I cover up for him by changing it to poor people bagels.
I promise you it couldn't matter less.
Has the defendant seen a copy of the indictment?
Just making conversation.
Yes, Your Honor.
Hey,
Discuss
switch
with
back.
your lawyer.
Have?
And how do you plead?
Not guilty.
Have a seat.
Defendant number 4, Molly Bloom.
He says to her, you said you left 2.5 million on the street, which is the debt. Why didn't you sell your debt like you sold your clothes? And I was like, she didn't sell all her clothes. She's walking about in Louboutins, like, so, but why didn't you sell your debt? And she says, I couldn't be sure of how they would collect. So she is above everything protecting her players. And we always see her protecting her players, whether it be financially. She's like, maybe you should go home, or maybe you should just,
She actually encourages more than one player to stop at this point, even when they appear desperate. And they're like, yes, oh no, I gotta keep going, right?
And she also protects them otherwise, because these are rich, famous men who think they can do anything. And so, like, one of them invites her to go to Cabo for the weekend, and she's like, the next person you send that kind of invitation to will not be me, and they will sell it to the tabloids. And she says to this guy, why don't you give your wife and kids a break and just run them over with a limo? Which I think is a fantastic takedown of this guy.
Yeah.
So yes, after we've met the new people, we turn to Harlan's downfall, which again bookended with meetings with Charles. These are one of my favorite scenes, the hard drive conversation, which we will get back to. We see Harlan's downfall, which also leads to Molly's downfall in LA. Harlan is sitting at the table telling everyone about this surprise birthday party that he set up for his wife. And he is so excited that he has pulled this off, that she has no idea, and he's telling them all the tiny details. And Molly is just like in love with him. You see her like standing off to the side being like, he's so cute. Oh, look at me, so cute. And he loses to Bad Brad because he's relatively new to the game and no one told him that Brad was bad. So Brad bluffs him. And Harlan loses his mind. And he continues to play through the night. He misses his wife's birthday. And 2 days later, she asks for a divorce. And it's just a catastrophic fall from grace. He ends up owing 1.2 million. And we get the conversation where he turns up with a check with a banker's draft for 1.2 million. And Molly says to player X, like, I have no idea where he got it from. And player X says, he got it from me. And he has basically been bankrolling Harlan through this whole thing. And she says, but that leads to the potential for cheating. And he's like, no, it's just, And so she basically has this argument with player X and kind of gives the impression that she might throw him out of the game, And that's when he says, I think that's when he says, I don't like poker. I like destroying people's lives, which is just sociopathic, And then we get the point where player X calls her and tells her, you're absolutely fucked.
Yeah, he's her over. He takes it away from her. But and it really, that's when we learn, he's really the one who was in control of that the whole time. That what comes out of the deal is that he bailed Harlan out 1.2 million, and then so now he gets 50% of all Harlan's winnings for the next whatever. That's the deal, right? So that means when Harlan wins at their table, even when X loses, he wins.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't X and then so raises the question, would X fold to him? Would X build up the pot so everybody else goes in and then fold and leave everyone else? He could totally manipulate the game this way because that's the player playing for him. So he's all about the integrity of the game and saying, no, we can't do this. We can't have you with these different issues. And so then he doesn't like the pushback on it and says, no, we're done.
Yeah. The conversations that she is having with Charles in the meantime are let me see. At the beginning, that's when Charles sort of points out to her how the Russian mob have connected through her game. And that's great. It's visual. He writes it on a whiteboard. I understood it. It was fantastic. And then towards the end, he asks her how much she got for her book advance. And we see the conversation of her having it with the agent, and he's like, we will give you so much money if you name names. And she's like, I will not name names. And so she only gets 35,000 because this is the through line. She will not name names. And Charles says to her, there's one thing he wants to seek a minor role reduction. And she's like, no, I built this game from scratch. How dare you?
She's kind of channeling her father a little bit in that moment, right? She's kind of being like her dad. I think how this is on mine. He wants to say she was basically a waitress and says she was just serving cocktails. She wasn't running it. And I love the line later on when they discover that it doesn't work.
Yes, what's the line?
He's like, is it because it wasn't? Did they buy that I was a waitress? No, it's because it wasn't true. Yes.
She's like, she made me think a little bit of Dawson, the Marine in A Few Good Men, who was like, no, I followed the order because it was my job to follow the order. And therefore, if I have to go to prison because I followed the order, that's what happens. She built that game. That means she has to go to prison. She has to go to prison because she built that. You cannot take that credit away from her. It's really important to her. Yeah. Her name being attached to it is really important. But then the other thing we get is the hard drive conversation. Right. Because he says something to her about, you need to give me your hard drive. And she says, which one? And he goes, what do you mean? And she goes, I have every hard drive from every laptop I've ever owned. Going back to before the games even started, probably. She has everything. And he says, oh, so it's got everything from there, but it's also got everything from your phone, because every time you've plugged your phone in to charge it into your laptop, it's taken everything from your phone onto, And she was like, the phones that I destroyed with a baseball bat. So she's been trying not to get these things, found. But unfortunately, she scuppered herself. And they have a brilliant Sorkin-y conversation with very quick back and forth, very snappy dialogue, very intelligent and witty. And she's like, oh, I don't have them. And he's like, you've just told me you have them. And she's like, I'm going to set fire to them. I'm going to blow them up. And he goes, no, they're evidence. She's like, well, you're just going to have to lie about it. And he says, you wanted someone who wasn't even a little bit shady.
But the information in that deposition would be nothing compared to the consequences of those text messages
Just got it.
showing up everywhere.
I couldn't figure out why you named some people but not others. I thought that maybe some people paid you.
You were wrong, but doesn't matter.
No, the only people you named in that book were the ones that were already named in the Bad Brad Marion deposition, which you think
I know.
Somebody leaked it
Sold
to the
it.
tabloids.
Yes.
Maybe even Butterbean.
Butterman, but I don't know who it was.
I watched Jenny McCarthy beat you up for naming the players. Why don't you just say, hey, those names are already public record?
I don't know, because I wasn't on The View under subpoena. Can we please get back to the emails and texts?
It's really, I was like, yes.
That is the best conversation in the movie for sure. It's a lot of fun. She's like, there's no drive. What are you talking about? I don't know. I didn't mention the drive. She just pretends the whole conversation doesn't happen. It's great. Yeah. It's very funny.
So that was the best bit of the whole film for me.
Now I did like I'm a big fan of Chris O'Dowd. I like the IT crowd, so I was a fan when he showed up. When she moves to New York, so she goes to New York and starts her games there after Claire X basically screws her in LA. And this is where she gets together the three girls, basically her crew, to
The
which is-
Playmates.
Yeah, and the Playmates. Yes, they're all Playboy Playmates. And then she's got B. Is it B is the or is it D?
B.
B is the dealer. So she's got she's got a nice table with fancy stuff, and she's like basically upgrading everything and making it an even better experience. And then so she starts reaching out. She gets to get it kind of the same thing she does in LA, where she goes to like these clubs and says anybody you think might be worth bringing in, but she's not worried about the celebrity nature of it anymore. It's not necessarily about playing with celebrities. It's about the prestige of playing at a high stakes game like this. And she hears about the other game going on across town in Brooklyn. That's the biggest game. It's the Russians that run that one. And so we have to see where she confronts a cheater, which is what was the guy doing again? Oh yeah, it was Chris O'Dowd. It's Chris O'Dowd that
No,
oh no, it's
it's
Steve from
Steve from Stranger Things.
Right, I forgot. Okay, so yeah, Steve from Stranger Things shows up. I loved it. I was like, Steve, and my girlfriend's like, who's that? I'm like, it's Steve from Stranger Things. It's fine. He shows up and he is cheating. He sneaks some chips onto the table, some counterfeit chips, and she's got cameras everywhere at this new setup. And so, and he's first of all, he's saying, hey, they're gonna be upset when you fight, you know, they see the eyes on him. She's like, no, I'm doing the same thing all casinos do. This is standard operating procedure. Why do you think we're not gonna have cameras on the tables? It's because he was basically trying to sneak in more chips, and she was out $57,000 or something that night because of his fake chips in the pot, right? So now he owes her $57,000. And this is a point where she decides to start taking a rake in the middle of a hand somehow. And I thought that was a weird, she just kind of signals the dealer, and then the dealer takes 2 chips and puts it to the side, and I guess that's what happens. Like
That's not, I read that is not how that happens. There has to be an agreed upon rake.
Okay.
Before the game starts.
Yeah.
You can't just in the middle of it. But B points out to her, you cannot keep taking these hits because eventually you'll not be able to pay out the winnings and it'll all fall apart. You need to take a rake. And she is watching a hand that goes up to $3 million. One hand. And so she's like, well, I can't cover everyone on this table who loses.
Yeah.
So she she goes like a gangster. Yeah. And she works out the percentage and just takes it off the table. And none of the players go, hey, we didn't agree to this.
I'm assuming they're all drunk or something. I don't know.
It just didn't happen like that, and it was just
yeah. They needed a dramatic way to show it, and that's the best way. But it makes it like that. She made a split, like a snap decision to start taking a rake, so she would be able to kind of back herself up financially. But that's what makes it illegal. You cannot do that if you want to keep it legal. So she decides to start breaking the law at that point. And then she gets we meet Downey, who is Chris O'Dowd. And again, I'm going to ask you, what is Chris O'Dowd doing with his accent? Is he
the best he can?
Okay. Is he just like they're saying be American, be an American Irish?
He's absolutely he's Irish American.
Okay. Because he could just be an Irish person too. Like he has a natural Irish accent.
He is actually Irish.
Maybe he wanted to try it. Maybe he's like, yeah, I think I'll try out my American accent a bit. I don't think I've ever seen him do that.
To be honest, I didn't even notice. I didn't notice that Idris wasn't great until he said Stella, and I was like, oh, they were. But other than that, I was fine with the accent.
Sorry. Just something that noticed me. The one other thing I noticed about this section is this is when we meet, he brings in some of these Russian guys to come play in the game. And I really like these characters. I thought I wanted to get more out of these characters, especially the guy who brought the Monet as collateral. And I can't remember that guy, that actor looks familiar. I know I've seen him in other stuff as well. But he shows up with a Monet, and she's like, this is a $7 million painting. That was a great one.
Yeah. And he's called Shelley, and he's just a little guy. He's just a little Russian lobster guy. And I kind of loved him. Yeah, the reason that they come is because Downey loses a hand that he can't afford to pay.
Right. That's right.
So she says, you bring me the Russians, and I will give you a cut of those games until you've paid me back.
Yeah.
But you have to bring me the Russians. And he's like, I don't know if they'll come. And she's like, why? And he goes, I'm the only Irishman they'll let play. And she's like, what does that have to do with me? And he goes, you're Irish. And she goes, I'm not. And that is the point at which I went, oh, why Molly Bloom sounded so familiar.
It's like dog was this too. It's enjoy.
She's the wife in Ulysses, which is a book I adore. And I am so annoyed at myself that I hadn't got that earlier.
That's funny. I have never read the Ulysses, but Chris O'Dowd's character has Doug. Is it Doug Downey? I don't know.
Downey, yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, he assumes she's Irish. I think probably because of her red hair, I would assume as well. That's usually an Irish trait.
Yeah, but also it is the Ulysses reference. You know, Ulysses is set in Ireland and her name is Molly Bloom. She's like one of the most famous characters in Irish literature. I can understand why he might make that assumption that maybe her family was called Bloom and they were Irish and so they were like, hey, let's call her Molly, you know.
Yeah. And then of course we have the conversation in the present with Charles. She's talking about Charles, the offer to be a cooperating witness. So again, the cops want her to give up. And this is the whole reason that she's involved in this. Basically, so she'll give up her names of the players in her game so that they can make these connections to these criminals who are involved and arrest these people or charge them or whatever. And she still doesn't want to do it. She's like, I'm only going to name the people that have already been named, right? That came up in this Brad thing.
She says, my value to the prosecution is exactly the same as it is to Hollywood. I have dirt, I have dish, I have gossip. And I was like, yeah, that's what this film is. She's absolutely right. This is the Hollywood version of that. She is as important to Hollywood as she is to the prosecution. And it's the dish, it's the gossip. And that's what this film is.
Absolutely.
You know, with no real, not getting your hooks into anything real. And the other thing we do see, when they're having this conversation about being a cooperating witness, we have an odd flashback because she's talking about her relationship with her father for some reason. And she's like, why do you push Stella so hard? And he kind of, he says, do I push her too hard? And she comes out with this story of a very, very smart, well-educated woman that she knows who somebody flew her somewhere. And basically she was like a call girl for a weekend. And she said, how much do you think she made? And he said $5,000. And she was like, no, she got a bag. So however hard you're pushing Stella, push her harder. And I was like, I do not like this. And I find it so surprising that she's having this conversation about how difficult her relationship with her father was. And she's sort of come out of it making herself the bad guy. You need to push your daughter harder so that she will never sell herself to a man or whatever. And I was just like, why? This is as confusing as The Crucible is about bored teenage girls getting into trouble. What are you talking? You know nothing. It's very weird.
Yeah, I agree. It was very, very strange.
We get a brief flashback which leads into a later conversation where she discovers that her father has been having an affair. And she finds that out, importantly, when she's about 20. When she's 20. Not when she's 5. When she's 20. The 5-year-old thing comes up later. So yes. So then we move into what I like to call the beginning of the end, which is going back in time to Brad's arrest. Because it turns out that Brad, terrible at poker, possibly on purpose, because he wanted to be at the table because he's a hedge fund manager. And so he wanted people for his hedge fund. And these are some of the richest people around. So she takes him to the side and goes, I don't want to give you any more money. I will give you a book. I will get you some lessons with a pro. And he's like, yeah, no, probably not. Because he would come in and lose 100 grand at poker and earn 4 million for his hedge fund. Mm-hmm. So he gets arrested and he brings her into it because he says she's made him a gambling addict. So Molly's game and life are getting more out of control. And in the meantime, her driver in New York sets her up with a meeting for a couple of new players to come in that she needs to vet. He says, I know these guys, they want in. She goes, I'll vet them because she thinks Pat is her friend. They turn out to be the Italian mafia. They want to collect her debts. She says thanks, but no thanks. That is not the answer they were looking for. They were giving her an offer she couldn't refuse, to quote the other film incorrectly, as everybody does. And there are violent repercussions. Just after she's recovering from the violent repercussions, her game is raided, and back in the present day, she meets the prosecution, and we have another very good scene.
I appreciate the offer, but really, I'm fine. I don't carry a big debt sheet. I feel safe.
You lied just then. When you said you don't carry a big debt sheet. You got 2.8 million on the street right now, right as we're sitting here. We do our research. That money should be in your hands, because it's yours. It's yours. And if you don't have it, you gotta go into your pocket to pay the wins.
Fellas, I'm sorry. It's just a friendly game with higher stakes. It was really nice to meet you, though. Let me know if there's ever anything I can do for you. I like to do favors. They'll put your drinks on my card.
And they're all kind of like, hey, we should help you with these debts, eh? And she's like, no. And then they send somebody, and it was weird because I was confused because she gets in her apartment. The doorman's like, oh, we got some packages for you. I'll bring them up in a second. And then he doesn't. The guy comes up to beat her up and to basically send her a message saying it wasn't a request. This is now happening. We are going to be collecting your debts. And this basically they're saying this is the way it is, forcing themselves on her.
They paid off the
doorman. Yeah, he said later on she confronts him and says, I guess those packages never got up to my apartment. Eh?
Yeah. And when he turns up and he says, we're going to collect your debts, that's what it is. And he makes her give him all of her money out of her safe and her jewelry. He robs her blind. He beats her up, and she cannot leave her apartment for 10 days. She's so terrified. And the whole time, those 10 days, she is waiting for a phone call. She is waiting to see news of her debts being collected. And it never happens. And so she finally, after 10 days, opens her door, and all of the stack of newspapers is there from the days that she's missed. And she's looking through them, and on the front page is a thing about there's been a massive mafia raid. So she assumes they must have been picked up. And so she's sort of in the clear for that, which makes her then go, I can go back to my game and carry on. And then she gets the call from Downey, who is hiding in a bathroom. And she's like, why are you hiding in a bathroom? And it turns out he's an informant. And this whole thing, he's just fundamentally screwed her over, because the whole thing was to get the Russians. And now she is part of that. Yeah. The other thing that is really, really funny is in the conversation with the prosecution, she's like, why am I even here? Why do you think I'm so important? And he said, one of the things that we pulled, your name is mentioned 19 times. And he goes, we need Molly, get Molly. We need Molly for tonight. Molly needs to be there. And you see her just go, ecstasy. They're talking about ecstasy. And I was like, the prosecutor that in New York doesn't know that ecstasy is called Molly. That's fantastic. I think that probably didn't happen, but it's very funny.
Yeah. I don't know. That's again, I'm sure that Sorkin has all these kind of funny little conversations he thought of and trying to find words. Just the fact that Molly is called that, her name is Molly, he probably felt obliged to put it in there.
And Charles gives this epic speech about, like, she is a good person and she won't name names and she will do. And I was just like, yes, she's fine, but she's not like. I didn't care for her as much as I think they assumed I would.
Yeah. Yeah. And he also is this where he tries to make the case like prison's going to be awful? They're going to do horrible things to you there and stuff like that. Is that where he said that? He was trying to.
Yes, because well, no, that's a bit later when she goes back to the office, and she says to him, I want to plead guilty, and he's like, they're going to put you in prison. They want to give you 42 months in prison, and that is, these women aren't in there for white collar crimes, you know.
Right. They're in there for drugs.
They get raped there and beaten, and you can't do that. And she's still, I did this, I need to pay for it, you know.
Yes, she's like Dawson, very much so. You're right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, but she also needs to go blow off some steam, so she goes skating. I guess like the ideal thing would be to have her go skiing. That's not really something you do casually. You have to, I don't know how that would work, but you can go skating. You can just go show up and skating. She doesn't have money to pay for the skates. She gives the girl $800 gloves uh to rent the skates so she go skating around and think about things. And then again, of course, I thought about Rocky and how in Rocky they didn't have the extras that they had for this film. There were lots of extras, a full skating. People are skating all over the place. And
Also, I don't. She doesn't go there to do anything. She just gets on the ice and starts speed skating, which you can't do. And the skating security are chasing after her. She's like knocking people over, and it is some of the worst green screen I have ever seen in my life. Other than maybe the bit where she's in the car with Pat, which is the other worst bit of green screen I have possibly ever. The green screen in this film is horrible.
I didn't even realize who those guys were at first. I thought they were, and she says, "Chase me." Like,
yeah,
what is going on here? Like, and so then, and I only know because my subtitle said like security or whatever. It said ice sentry or whatever. So these guys are chasing after her and they run around. And then at that moment, we see her dad says, "Molly," and she's like, "What?" And she trips over somebody. And I swear, I thought he was in her head. I did not think he was actually there.
No.
Right? Didn't you think it was something like because she was thinking about him, because she was working through all these problems? Blah, blah, blah. I totally thought it was like something out of the, but no, he is really there. He's showing up.
When they flicked back to him, I was expecting it. I was so expecting it to be a reveal of someone else's face that I didn't recognize Kevin Costner. Because I was like, no, it's a different. No, that is Kevin Costner.
With this Kevin Costner. And so then they have I really love this scene. Actually, it's probably my second favorite scene. Kevin Costner gives her 3 years of therapy in 3 minutes. He sits down with her to talk to her about the problems. And I mean, it's a good conversation. I think he's a tough father, but we do see that he loves her in all that. And there's my favorite line is he goes on and talks about how his other kids are all these great,
And for the record, your father raised 3 kids on a college professor's salary. One of them is a 2-time Olympian, a 6th-round draft pick of the Philadelphia Eagles, and a leading philanthropist. The other is a cardiothoracic surgeon at Mass General, and the third managed to build a multi-million-dollar business using not much more than her wits.
I'm about to plead guilty in federal court.
Well, nobody's perfect.
And he includes her in this as well. He says the other one she put together a multi-million-dollar business on nothing but her own wits or something like that, right? So he includes her as like that's an achievement in itself. Like you did something here.
I was less of a fan.
Okay, well, here's what I say, and I say as a father, I can empathize with Kevin. Like when he talks about how we didn't know she got beat up until you read her book.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, I felt
that would have killed me as a father, and it would just make me so. And he's like, I'm gonna find them. I'm gonna hire a hitman to kill these people because they have to suffer for what they did to you. I'm like, I can kind of understand that. Like he's getting a little too intense about it, but I definitely have felt that that feeling of like, oh my god, my children are everything. So I get that.
I absolutely understand that. I think he's doing a book. I think he's making it all about himself because he has this conversation with her, and he says that the reason that they didn't get on and the reason she picked all those fights with him, because she was like, why didn't you love me as much? And he says, because you pushed back against me. And then he tells her that the reason she pushed back against him was because she realized when she was 5 that he was having an affair. And because she saw something. And he says, you didn't really know what you saw, but that's why you pushed back, because you knew. But we'd seen that flashback of where she knew when she was 20. And I think putting that on your 5-year-old kid and then just going, it's a fucking excuse for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, she's treating me badly because she knows. She's doing this because she knows. No, she's doing this because you're being a jackass. He takes no responsibility. He says to her, you tripped over a stick. That's what you did wrong. That is his wording. You tripped over a stick. The stick attacked her. So it was when she fell in Deer Valley. the most infinitesimal chance that this was going to happen. They spread pine little bits of pine, not cones, but branches from a pine tree on the course so that you can get more like visual idea of how far you've got to go and stuff, because you can't see anything because it's all white. And one of them was sticking up. It caught her boot, undid her boot, so as she went into a jump she lost one of her skis. That is a 1 in a million, thousand, trillion, bazillion, billion chance, surely, that would happen. And he says, that's what you did wrong? She didn't do everything wrong.
No, but I think that's what he's, because they also have this exchange about sarcasm, right? But I think that's kind of, what he means that she didn't do anything wrong. That's what he's going to say there.
After everything, that's why I said I do not have enough fuck yous for that man, because he sat down with her and he said, you were mean to me because you knew when you were 5. And I was like, fuck you, sir. And then he went, you tripped over a stick. And I was like, fuck you, sir. And he went, that's what you did wrong. And I was like, do you know what? Fuck you, sir.
I think the whole thing about her being 5 is like, if she saw something when she was 5 that she didn't realize what it was, he realized that she saw her, and he had a choice at that point to stop cheating. Like, he could have just ended everything right there and realized, oh my God, my daughter's seen this. Like, even if she doesn't realize, because the way she finds out when she's 20 is she overhears her mother arguing with him on the phone, right? So nobody actually tells her, she just kind of overhears it. But that's on him. That's nothing to do with her. And in his mind, he is thinking, oh, my daughter knows about me cheating, while he continues to cheat on his wife. But she has no idea. It's only she's thinking about the entire time that she's growing up with this. I agree that was a dumb point. I didn't like it at all. But
I was not into that.
Again, I think it was a great performance, and when he talked about like how much he loved her, and he's a father. I could sympathize with that. So
yeah, I get that, and I do think it's a good performance, because I hated him so much, and I always think when a character makes me feel that kind of visceral rage, I want to shake the actor's hand, because I want to go, well done, you made me hate you so much.
Kevin Costner's pretty good. All right. Yeah. So then she returns to Charles's office to inform him that she wants to plead guilty. She has her day in court, but Canadian treasure Graham Greene as the judge, who I love. Every time I see him, I love him. He recently passed away. May he rest in peace.
Is he the one who was in Dances with Wolves?
Yeah, but that's probably
with Kevin Costner, Oscar nominated for that. Yeah.
Yeah, with Kevin Costner, absolutely. And he's like, I mean, as a Canadian, I've grown up with him in so many things, and that was like his biggest, I think, Hollywood role, but he's always been in a ton of stuff. So yeah, he basically, like, she pleads guilty, but they do not sentence her to jail. She gets a very reasonable sentence, like 200 days of community service, $200,000 fine or something like that, but no jail time. And then she owes like $2 million in taxes or something to the government. That's another thing she has to deal with. No jail time, which is, I guess, she's not going to get raped, so that's a good thing. So anyway, that's how it ends.
The judge says to her, this court sits within spitting distance of Wall Street, and I know that from personal experience of how often I've tried to spit at it, which I think was kind of a great line. But if it's within spitting distance, why are you only trying? But yes, so he's like, the people on Wall Street are going to do more crimes than you've done in your entire life. Before lunch today, there is nothing we will gain from putting you in prison. Again, you beautiful rich white lady, why would we put you in prison? Even though she's not rich. And then we flash back to the Deer Valley crash. She is unconscious on the floor, and I'm thinking, oh, we're finally going to find out about her fatal injury. But she comes around and she just gets up and walks away, which the people would not let her do.
Yeah. But they make it like, I have to do it myself. It's like kind of like, it's almost like a Jerry Maguire, Cuba Gooding Jr. when he gets up. And that moment in Jerry Maguire, that is an amazing moment where people are like, oh my God, I can't believe he got up. In this moment, I'm like, please don't get up. You should not be getting up right now. Stay put so they can take you up in a stretcher. This is not the kind of situation where you want to get up and walk off. I don't know, it was weird. It was very strange.
Do you know why she did it? Because of the fuck you, man. Okay. Her dad turned up and she looked at him and he was like, are you okay? And she was like, yeah. Because earlier in one of the flashbacks, she's tired and her mum says she's tired. Why don't we finish? And he says to her, what's another word for tired? If you can give me a synonym for tired, I will let you go home. And I would immediately go, exhausted. Yeah. We go home. He says weak. And he goes, exactly. And she goes, we're going to do it again. He has mind-fucked this girl for her entire life. And so he turns up. She should not be getting up. Even if there's nothing wrong with her, just check.
Mm-hmm.
They should be putting a C-collar on and they should be getting her to a hospital. But no, because her dad is there, she has to get up. And then she does this speech about, like, she'll never be able to vote. She'll never be allowed to go to Canada, which is true, but she was given a 48-hour waiver to go to the TIFF Film Festival for this film, which is so funny. And then she says, and to the person who said coming fourth in the Olympics was the worst thing that could happen in sport, fuck you. Yeah.
Not bad necessarily, but not great. Not overall. I just kind of was like, it was way too long. 2 hours and 20 minutes is too long. I definitely could have cut some of this down, and I don't know. It was not my favorite Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah, and like you say, I think the different eras that we were jumping back and forth to were kind of confusing. There was stuff with her dad, and there was the stuff from New York, and there's, and then you were like, oh, so the stuff from LA we're now chronological, and then we get to New York. But then Brad got arrested, and I was a little bit confused about whether she was currently running the game in New York, which she was. But I was a little bit confused there. I didn't really like the narrative thread of it.
I felt like they're trying to do what they did in The Social Network, because that is a film that does keep cutting back to that scene with Mark Zuckerberg in the boardroom at the deposition, and it does it really well. But this does not do it well. It's confusing, and because we also have the flashbacks to when she was a kid coming at some point, so we have like multiple levels of flashback, and it just got confusing.
And The Social Network is him in a deposition. I can't really remember it, but I'm assuming he's telling the story. Whereas, like you say, her story is not her sitting down and telling it to Charles. He's reading the book while on the side dealing with her case. So there's, it doesn't come together. It doesn't stitch together terribly well.
Yeah, I agree. But we watched it, so thank you for watching it. We appreciate it.
Well, it's a film that we watched.
There we go.
And what would be your letterboxd rating?
Oh, I think I would give this about a 2.5, honestly, out of 5.
But this is, I think, the first time we've agreed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, again, some really great moments, some excellent lines. Great, I get, like, wasn't she nominated, or she won a Golden Globe or something for this?
She was nominated for a Golden Globe. I don't think she won anything for this, but she wasn't Oscar nominated.
But it was still like one of the movies that was kind of Oscar buzz at this time in 2017 when it came out. And I think I get it. Like, it was, it's also probably really, it's a bit Oscar baity to have anything set in Los Angeles that has to do with movie stars. So there's that. But yeah, it's still an interesting story.
Do you think Tobey Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio did a big campaign behind the scenes?
Yeah, maybe. Like, when was this the year Leo was up for The Revenant? No, that was the year before, I think.
Might have been The Revenant year. That'll be interesting.
I just twice.
So, in terms of suggestions of what we watch next, I enjoyed your sort of 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon that you did last time. So I sort of wanted to do that again. And one of the things I kept seeing when I was reading the reviews of this film was, why did I watch this when Miss Sloane was right there? Which is the film that Jessica Chastain did the year before about an American lobbyist called Miss Sloane, Sloane, I think. And I don't know much about it, but I thought we could go with another Jessica Chastain, and I would like to see what people preferred.
It is kind of similar, eh? She's a lobbyist willing to bend the rules for her clients. Elizabeth Sloane remains one of the most sought after lobbyists in Washington, D.C. Okay.
I don't know if it's based on a true story, but
it's about a bill that imposes regulations on firearms. So this is about gun regulation in the US, which is always an interesting topic.
And it's a thriller, and Jessica Chastain is always good value for money.
Hey, and it stars Mark Strong.
Oh my God, that's it.
Good job. That's going to do it for this episode of Transatlantic Watch Party. You should follow us on TikTok. I am Dan Watches Movies. Cara is
A Quiet Life with Me.
We post about all kinds of stuff there, and we'll be back again next week to talk about Miss Sloane.